Hello, my name is Paul Priestley. Welcome to arttutorialsonline.com. Today we're going to be looking at the third in my series on drawing for beginners. Yes, and this time we're going to be looking at shading. Fascinating stuff shading is, because it's the difference between light and dark, background and foreground, and how you create that on a flat surface. It's going to be absolutely amazing. So let's make a start. I'm going to use 3 pencils, an HB, a 4B and an 8B to get different contrasts. We're going to concentrate on 2 elements, creating contrast and creating shade between the background and the foreground, lighter, darker. If you can build in these 2 ideas to your drawings, you'll find your drawings work so much better. Now I'm going to take this simple shape that I drew in the last video, and I'm going to shade it in using the dark tone first. So I'm using my 8B pencil. I'm pressing on really hard. Now I'm going to come down and I'm going to shade again, but this time not pressing on so hard. And then thirdly, I'm going to do the same thing again with the same pencil, but press on very, very faintly. You can see how already it's beginning to look 3-dimensional. I've swapped pencils now to my 4B pencil and I'm pressing on very faintly here just to get that final tone. You can see now I've left some areas white, the colour of the paper, so that's the highlight. Now I'm going to create an edge. This is where we talk about the contrast. You see here I am shading the background nice and dark against that edge there, the light, and I create that edge. It makes the object then stand out from the background. So contrast will help to make objects stand out when you do the shading. This is something you need to remember. I'll put a shadow on the other side here. I'm pressing on again quite hard, as you can see, and gradually getting lighter as it comes down. I'll do a little bit of shading in the background again, quite light, but you'll notice the background then contrasts with the dark areas of the object, so you can see the difference between light and dark. Shading is all about creating contrast. If you can create different tones, you will create something which will begin to look 3-dimensional. Now I'm going to draw a little tree here, and I've started by drawing some triangles in my HB pencil. Just going to draw the outline. I'm not going to draw the whole tree, we're just going to draw the bottom part of the tree, but just a few simple shapes. Little bit of background in and so on. Now we're going to make this look 3-dimensional just by using shade. Back to my 8B pencil, and I'm pressing on really hard. And I'm just going roughly around those basic shapes that I've just created to do the bottom part of the tree. So imagine the sun's shining down from above, something like that. I'm then going to go over this again now with my next tone. You see, pressing on slightly lighter, leaving some white patches. You see how it begins to look 3-dimensional. Again, pressing on even lighter still, creating different tones. Now, going back to my 8B pencil, I'm going to press on really hard because these elements underneath, the branches underneath the leaves there, are not going to get the light, so they're going to be very dark. Draw roughly the one side of my tree trunk in the dark tone, come down then with a mid-tone. You can see already it's beginning to look 3-dimensional. Simple idea, you see. Coming down here now with a lighter tone with my 4B pencil. Now going back to my 8B, I'm now going to put a little bit of the background in, but I need to create contrast. So I'm creating an edge down the side of the tree as I did in that block earlier on. You see the idea? You see how the tree now stands out? So this shading here is an area which is in the middle ground. But now switching to my 4B pencil, I'm doing hills in the background. You see I'm doing them so much lighter in tone. Few little trees up there, very, very light tone. Now you can see the contrast between the light tones and the dark tones, and you can see how the dark tones make the foreground come forward, the light tones push things back into the background. Now this is creating a great deal of distance, but you can also use exactly the same idea on something which has got much shallower depth. If I draw this very simple flower here, I'm going to draw a group of them. Okay, so I'm drawing the centres again, going around here, just very simple, putting a little triangle in between to make it look like there's lots of different leaves. Okay, we'll do a third one there. Now, I'm going to treat this again in the 3 tones. Going back to my soft 8B pencil, I'm going to shade in the centre of this flower here, pressing on really hard. The next flower, which is a little bit further back, it's not too far, but I'm pressing on much lighter here. So the centre of the flower is much lighter than the first one. And then the third one, which is even further back, but again not that far really, I'm doing that very lightly. Now going back to my 8B pencil, I'm going to shade those little triangle shapes in between the main petals. Now can you see how doing that shading there creates contrast, makes some petals stand out? Do you see the idea? So I've done those nice dark tones. You see how it's making them stand out? So if I go round the edge now with a dark line, now you wouldn't necessarily do this, but I just want to show you how it will stand out. See the dark line around there? See how that flower now stands out from the flower behind, all through contrast which has been created through light and shade. Now if I go and start shading the flower behind, I've now got to shade that in a much lighter tone than the one that I've just finished. So I'm going to use my 4B pencil this time, and I'm going to shade the little triangle sections in to make the leaf petals stand out as I did before, but this time I'm shading much lighter in tone. I'm doing an edge in pencil again, but again much lighter in tone. And you can see how this flower now looks as though it's behind the one in front. It's quite simple really. It's all to do with the different levels of shading, how hard you press on. The third flower is drawn even lighter in tone. You can see here, I'm just shading that in here. And that will also look much further away than the one at front. So you can create depth in your drawing between the background and the foreground, even though the depth may only be a few inches. Now we're going to take something slightly different. I just want to show you the difference between how you can create with the shading here. Now I'm just going to create something very similar to one of the items I drew in the last video here. And what I'm going to do is a little landscape with a river running through. You can see the background hills are shaded with my 4B pencil very lightly. The hills that are a little bit closer to me, I'm now going to shade a little bit stronger, again with a 4B pencil. You can see how it's working there. Put a few little dark tones, maybe some buildings or whatever in the background. There, simple. Now I'm going to start doing the water. I start with my 4B pencil, going side to side as you saw in the last video, but as I'm coming further forward I'm pressing on harder. Now I switch to my softer pencil and I'm pressing on harder still, really hard, really strong lines, putting some shading in there. You see the contrast again between the background and the foreground. Notice now I'm going back to my 4B pencil and I'm doing some shading to suggest the hills. You'll notice the lines are at different angles. You'll notice this helps to define the landscape, as we saw in the last video. Do you see what I'm doing? Here. Again, these are all with the 4B pencil, but then switch to the softer pencil, press on really hard. Here we are, you see? And look how this is beginning to look very three-dimensional. You can actually see, you can move into that space, and it's all done on a flat surface, and it's all done through different types of shading, pressing on hard, strong bold shading in the foreground, light shading in the background. Look at the difference. You see how it works? Right, I hope you've enjoyed the drawing. Thank you for watching arttutorialsonline.com. I hope you enjoyed the video and I hope you've learned something about shading. If you have and you like the video, why not give the video a like? And if you can subscribe to my channel, that would be absolutely wonderful. I would really appreciate that. Thank you very much for watching.